more thing with Tennessee. The Tennessee cop, they call her the Tennessee sex cop, Maegan Hall, claims she was sexually groomed in new lawsuit. So I don't know if you're familiar.
Let me see who you're talking about.
I don't think this is no, yeah, this is her. She was the cop who slept with like 5 other cop colleagues. So yeah, that's her. So the Tennessee cop fired over her numerous sexual romps with other officers, claims in a new federal lawsuit that superiors in her department sexually groomed her for the risque escapades. Maegan Hall, 26, who blamed a troubled marriage for her randy affairs, claimed she felt trapped and exploited in the midst of all-male ranks of the Laverne Police Department, according to her 51-page federal complaint filed Monday. Where Ms. Hall sought role models at her new job, she instead found predators, the lawsuit says, in place of offering professional development to her supervisors, and the chief of police groomed her for sexual exploitation. They concluded.
Get to the next part.
They concluded in using their authority to
They colluded. In other words, conspired in using their authority
to systemically disarm her resistance and entrap her in degrading and abusive sexual relationships, even sharing tips on the best ways to manipulate and exploit her. The suit claims Hall, who had a history of mental health, well, why was she an officer?
Mental illness, felt trapped.
And in an attempt to escape, she nearly killed herself. She has a history of mental illness, but you still let her become a police officer and have a gun.
Yeah, interesting.
This is her.
Okay, interesting.
The white one, the lily white woman.
I'm not gonna get into that. I refuse to go there.
She was sexually groomed and all this other stuff. What are your thoughts on that, honey? This is in Tennessee.
That's Laverne, Tennessee, not Memphis.
You don't care.
That's their problem. I hate to see any woman exploited.
If you're mayor and this happens in your department,
I'll deal with it.
She has a lawsuit. Now,
I'll deal with it.
Was the other officers fired?
I have no idea. Nobody said she got raped. They say she was groomed. But remember, let's get context.
These are one of the men that she had the escapades with.
Okay. Wait. She claimed she got groomed, right?
Right.
What is one of the things that we get on a certain political party for engaging in? Grooming children. If it's all right to groom a child, is it not all right to groom a grown woman? I mean, you're not supposed to be raping. You see what I'm saying? You're supposed to be conditioning her so she goes along with it. So if you can do that to a child, how are you going to say that it's wrong to do it to a cop?
They're not saying that the children are being groomed.
I know, but remember, this is the same debate we get about letting these trannies go into public libraries and elementary schools and groom children.
That's grooming. So legally, they're saying that's not grooming.
Oh, but we say it's grooming, and she's saying it's grooming. And from reading the law, the action, she's using it the same way. Remember, nobody's forcing her. They're getting her to think that's the way to do stuff. Remember? So you're getting the children to think that you're doing stuff. So, I mean, it's interesting that you go into a federal court saying, I'm an adult, I carry a gun, the public safety and responsibility is in my hands, but fellow officers are doing the same thing to me that some of the people who might be reviewing this say is okay to do to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old children.
Mm-hmm.
You see where we go down this slippery slope, why there are problems when you let this thing happen, this stuff happens. And when we look at Lori Lightfoot, what's going on in these cities, why everything's going to hell, this kind of thing where grooming is all right for this group to do, this kind of social disorder and dysfunction is okay. We don't need to know how to rear children. They're supposed to be protected, but you can't protect them after they get grown, so they don't know how to deal with anything, so everything goes to hell. And you don't teach them manhood, so they get violent in the hood or in the hallway. So what are we doing?
Briefly, before we shift gears, just real quick, I want you to answer this. Should police officers have qualified immunity? Or should that be something that they end? Because that's the push.
Well, here's the thing. What you're talking about is another one of these inane debates by people who don't understand what the concept stands for. As long as the officer is acting within the line of duty, he's got immunity. If he gets out of the line of duty and he's not doing what he or she is supposed to do, then that person doesn't have immunity. So when people get to talking about qualified immunity, right now the law is everywhere. You have to behave as you're supposed to behave. Judges have immunity for what they say and do on the bench, unless it far exceeds the authority of the judge to do.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Breaking news. And I realize I need to start checking like Twitter and stuff like that for breaking news. I have not been following this case. I don't know if you heard of this case, but Alex Murdock found guilty of double murder. Let me just play.
The State versus Richard Alexander Murdock, defendant. Indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Okay. Guilty verdict. Signed by the forelady, 3/2/23. Docket number 2022-GS-15-00593, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions, the July term of 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdock, defendant. Indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-0010, CDR Code 0116. Verdict, guilty. Signed by the forelady. Date 3/2/23.
Okay, so have you heard about this case?
Wasn't it a wife and child?
Yeah, so he was found guilty in murder of wife and son. Pull this down. The jury has found disgraced South Carolina attorney Alex Murdock guilty of brutally murdering his wife and younger son at the family's property in 2021. They have a whole Netflix docuseries on this. I have not been following it. This is the hottest topic on YouTube. I know YouTubers getting hella views, but that's their specialty, is to cover like cases. Maybe I need to switch up, honey, and cover cases with you on a whole separate YouTube channel. But yeah, so it says the jury reached a verdict after deliberating for nearly 3 hours Thursday, after hearing 5 weeks of testimony from more than 70 witnesses, including Alex Murdock himself, who denied the murders but admitted to lying to investigators and cheating his clients. He was found guilty on all 4 counts: 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of possession of a weapon, and a commitment of a violent crime. So, yeah. You don't care.
I haven't kept up with it. I mean, it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's well, all murders are kind of routine. Cain and Abel, you know,
Wait.
and way before that. So
he faces only up to 30 years. He faces 30 years to life in prison for murder. Life in prison is 25. You can get parole in 25 years.
Maybe it depends on the state and whether or not they found them guilt for the sentence aspect. Life without possibility of parole, or whether the sentencing thing goes. Right now, we haven't had the sentencing yet.
All right. Well,
so there'll be guidelines that the judge will have to go through, like they did with Juicy Jesse in Chicago. And
Mhm.
it depends. And most common cause of a homicide is domestic. Somebody gets upset with a significant other and or a child.
Right.
Sometimes it starts off as an intended murder suicide, but once the defendant kills the other party or parties, they feel so much better they no longer want to kill themselves. Then we have appeals too. So we'll see what happens.
Guys, go and support Judge Joe Brown for mayor. Send Brown down 10. Financially support GoFundMe, Cash App, Judge $ Judge Joe Brown 2023. The link is in the description. Go to the website. You could donate directly.
JJB
Right. You could
2023.
click when you go to the website, click donate. You can use your card or Cash App. And sign.
Now that's the site. To get there, you go to jjb2023.com.
Right. So go support, sign up to the mailing list, then Brown downtown.
Now let's take the city back so it can become a mecca for the 21st century. So somebody gets it right.
Right.
See, one of the problems with most of these mayors you have right now in the cities where there are bad problems, they don't have any contact with the city. They sit in hotel bars and they have their cups, not cups, they're crystal glasses, and they're drinking Chablis and nibbling cheese and crackers off of the cheese plate. So, and they're discussing things remotely. What shall we do? Or one in Memphis that's cute. City Council voted to appropriate $5 million for a study of reparations. Sounds good, right?
Yeah, we talked about that on a Twitter space.
Or is that just another dodge for the people in charge to have $5 million to steal? So you mean to tell me that in a city that's 65% Black, that has a majority of the city council Black, a majority of the county commission that's Black, they don't have anybody that's been in there who has done any studies? There's nobody already on the payroll for the city who knows anything about the subject. There's nobody qualified to do a study. These people who presume to represent the constituencies they do have had no thoughts on the matter. So you want to approve $5 million to go hire somebody to do a study? Oh, now let's go back. It's reparations. That means paying the people, in effect, restitution for wrong done to them. You make them whole again, or you compensate them for the damages. But how are you getting restitution or reparations or compensation if you pay yourself? Remember, 65% of the people who pay property tax, who pay sales taxes, are the people that would be paying themselves to get reparations. The other point is, do they honestly think it's going to survive what would happen in Nashville, the state capital, where such things would be dependent? It sounds to me like a good idea until you analyze what will be going on. And it's another, like many, for the people to get money thrown out there that they can pilfer and put in their own pockets or give to their friends. And every now and then we get a bunch of Tennessee representatives in various cities, counties, and statewide who get caught up in these sting operations and wind up going to penitentiaries because they're crooked. Now, there's some honest people, but there are too many that aren't. And there are a lot that don't know the difference between, no, you don't do this, you do that, and this is a line you don't cross. So I'm looking at the people that are so staunchly in favor of this, and I'm wondering, why do you need to conduct a study. You mean you have no independent ideas? Why did you run for election if you didn't? And by the way, I know some of you, you can't walk out there in the communities in question because they'll kick your behind. So maybe the problem is not 5 million for study. It's just next election, turn them out of office and put somebody in there that has some solutions.
Good point. All right. So I'm gonna read these super chats and then we're going to switch gears. We gotta talk about pop culture, but it's a different type of pop culture today. And then of course we have to talk about Black culture news or just Black news as well, right? And then I have to send Drew the link because I want him to introduce the topic or discussion of the Black Colorado farmers. But just introduce it. We could revisit that and go in more details on another show. Okay, so thank you again. Norman Henderson said, I'm gonna give you a little something. I'm gonna get you a little something. Okay. Me, C-Bone. Call me a skeptic, but if we were forgiven up to 20K of federal undergraduate loans, will we still pay for the forgiveness via taxes based on the rules of debt forgiveness? Question mark.
Damn good question. You might have to. It depends upon what happens with the tax codes.
Okay. BLM officer.
By the way, it could easily be classified as gain and benefits. IRS has from time to time insisted on such things as taxing as a benefit or as income, frequent flyer miles when you fly on behalf of a business. By the way, bank robbers are required to pay taxes on their ill-gotten gains from bank robberies. You can get busted on that. That's happened a time or two also.
Mm-hmm.
Any kind of gain. Did you get a benefit?
Okay. And BLM officer BJ, keep telling the truth, Judge. Love your wisdom and guidance. Stay beautiful, Dana. Thank you. Says celebrate the first super chat from BLM. Yes, this is his first super chat. Thank you. Jay the informant. Speaking of lynching, Dems in Massachusetts introduced a bill to get prisoners 365 days off sentence for their organs or bone marrow. Thoughts? Oh, I've heard of that. So they're, what do you call it? They're retract or take away 365 days off your sentence if you donate organs or your bone marrow. Well, what only organ you could donate is a kidney if you want to still keep living.
No, you can donate part of your liver and stuff like that.
Well, what do you think about that?
Tissue, things like that, skin grafts for burn victims,
Bone
marrow for cancer patients. By the way, that is, the penitentiary populations have been a great source for human volunteers for medical experimentation. Always have been.
Mm-hmm. So you don't have a problem with that, or you think that if
somebody wants to volunteer, you can be an organ donor when you die. They take it quickly, turn the machine off so you quickly croak and they can harvest your organs if you put it on the back of your driver's license. And when you go into a hospital, they ask you, quick, turn him off. We need those kidneys.
If you were a inmate in a prison and they said, hey, we'll take 365 days off your sentence if you donate an organ, would you do it?
I wouldn't be in the prison.
If you were, hypothetically.
I'm not.
You're not going to play the game with me?
No.
Don't judge him, Joe Brown.